When the slave trade was at its peak, the perpetrators attempted to conceal many dark and untold secrets about enslaved African men. From sexual humiliation to brutal molestation, enslaved African men experienced unimaginable sexual abuses before achieving their freedom. Join us in this gripping video as we delve into the hidden truths of slavery by discussing the distressing topic of how enslaved African men were sexually abused by their masters. But before starting, remember to subscribe and press the bell icon to get all future updates. Without further delay, let's jump into the video. During the 16th century, numerous African men and women were captured from their homeland and transported to Europe. Beyond the already degrading conditions they endured, many of these men suffered from the horrors of sexual abuse, devastatingly impacting their physical, emotional, and mental well-being. This barbaric practice extended to women as well, serving as a means of control that aimed to dehumanize and degrade the victims. Rape and sexual assaults. Rape and sexual assaults. One of the ways enslaved African men were abused was through sexual assaults and rape. From that time to even today, there is a misconception that only enslaved women were subjected to this sexual abuse, and men were only subjected to be seen as the perpetrators. However, raping enslaved African men was an open secret for several years during slavery. African men possessed brute strength, large genitals, and a masculine physique was a stereotype that played a role in perpetuating this unjust behavior. Alongside their white mistresses, they also fell victim to rape at the hands of their masters. The male victims of these sexual assaults were consistently too ashamed to speak up. Even if they did, their claims often went unheard, as they could not present any evidence bearing the crime's proof. The reason behind rape and assault. The masters believed that rape served as a means to humiliate, emasculate, and dehumanize their victims, showcasing their complete authority over the bodies and minds of these enslaved men. Formerly enslaved person and American writer William Grimes, in his autobiography, The Life of William Grimes, the Runaway Slave, wrote about the horrific experience of being sexually assaulted by a woman while enslaved. Aside from being compelled to engage in sexual relations with their owners and other white women, enslaved men also endured various forms of sexual violence. This included being coerced to witness the rape of their wives and daughters. This experience inflicted lasting trauma upon many of these enslaved men throughout their lifetimes. Sexual harassment and objectification. During market gatherings, enslaved African men were often forced to stand naked as potential buyers evaluated them. Frequently, their genitals became a central assessment point, as buyers believed a man's physical traits could indicate his virility or strength. This degrading encounter diminished these enslaved men to commodities for sale and stripped them of their dignity. Sexual abuse gained prominence in the Caribbean and entailed the flogging and raping of enslaved men in front of other enslaved people, as it would shatter their self-esteem and strength. This buck-breaking practice represented a ruthless punishment primarily directed at enslaved men. This inhumane practice knew no age limits, as children were not spared from it. The intent was to humiliate and crush the spirits of enslaved African men and make them feel less of a man, while also serving as a deterrent against any form of resistance or rebellion. Consequence of buck-breaking. After a while, the success of buck-breaking gave rise to the establishment of sex farms, where enslaved African men were specifically compelled to sleep with enslaved women for the sole purpose of producing more enslaved people. The intense shame from these experiences led many of these enslaved men to resort to suicide as a way of escaping these horrors. Some accounts suggest that the practice of sagging pants can be linked to buck-breaking. In this context, African enslavers compelled their slaves to sag their trousers as a visual signal of having been subjected to rape, ensuring this message was understood by all, including fellow white masters. Due to such inhuman acts, enslaved men choose to escape most of the time, and some even seek death after being too traumatized by those brutal acts. Even though slavery has gone for a long time, but it left behind its trail like and sagging pants. Even today, consciously and subconsciously, people are using them, which need to stop remembering those soul sufferings. That's all for today. If you have any questions, let us know in the comments below and we will try to get back to you. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so you don't miss any updates. That's all for today. See you next time.